Hey, good morning, you fine, fabulous book people. It is a damn fine day to talk about a book, and today we are here for a book review. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but went to the doctor today, got me a steroid shot, and so I'm a little bit, you know what I mean? Anyway, we're going to talk about The Beast You Are by Paul Tremblay. Now, um, I didn't like this book. It was okay. I'm giving it 2 stars. There were 2 stories out of I think 14 that I really liked. The rest of them, I mean, some of them felt really flat. Some of them fell really flat. Some of them just were just okay for me. Now, excuse me. I think a lot of this has to do with um, kind of the way this book was written. I do not feel that Paul Tremblay was putting a collection together and said, "Hey, these are the 14 best stories that I have here on hand that have not been put together in a collection, and let's put them all together." I mean, it's not a greatest hits, so to speak. There are story notes in the back on all the stories, and a lot of them felt like gimmicks or prompts or the author trying to write something to fit like a certain anthology theme. One goes so far as to say like he just had like a postcard with a picture of a blue van on it and some like you know out of context writing on the back of it or whatever. Hold on, but I'm here to tell you about the 2 stories I did like, and then I will talk a little bit about the Beast You Are, which is like a 150-page story at the end of this, the title track. And while I didn't love that one, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I don't know if you hear the dog barking, but she is barking. It is the time of year where we get deliveries constantly, and she barks constantly. So I'm going to try to shut the door and hopefully block that out because I'm too lazy to start over. And Lord knows I cannot get her to ever not bark constantly. So it is what it is. All right. So but yeah, a lot of gimmicks and it felt like, and the author tells you in the back. I mean, through the story notes, it felt like a lot of them were trying new things and kind of, this and that. So that said, I've read five. I think I've read 5 books by Paul Tremblay. My favorite is A Head Full of Ghosts. That's another thing I'll mention is that the 2 young girl characters from uh A Head Full of Ghosts make appearances in here and other stories. Mary and something. They both start with an M. I'm drawing a blank on the 2 characters' names, but they make appearances in here and other stories. And while I didn't really like the stories that they appeared in, it was kind of cool to see them again or see an alternate fiction version of them again or whatever. But anyway, Head Full of Ghosts is my favorite. Then probably Disappearance at Devil's Rock, and then probably The Cabin at the End of the World, which was made into a fairly big time movie. I enjoyed that one too. Did horror movie earlier in the year. It was all right, probably 3 stars. Not I didn't like it more than those other three, but anyway, I think there's another one. But so yeah. So let's talk about the stories in here that I did like. The first one, and it's my second favorite story. It's got an odd title. It's got Ice Cold Lemonade 25 cents, and that's marked out. And then Haunted House Tour, one per person, and I'll show that to you. But so you know, nerdy kid, nerdy guy, out riding his bike, rides by the prettiest girl in school's house, and her little sister are out front, and they're selling lemonade, and he doesn't have any cash, so he goes back the next day to get some lemonade. Well, they're not selling lemonade anymore. Now they're giving a haunted house tour, and so their house is haunted, and so he's down, right? He's like, all right, let's go, let's see this haunted house. I mean, I get some time with the prettiest girl in school, and I mean, ultimately, you tour through the house, and little sisters, out in the background, setting off sounds and mechanical things or whatever to kind of a childish type haunting thing, right? And but he makes it to the girl's room, and there's a drawing on the bed, and she says that's her personal ghost, like she has drawn what in her mind or what her imagination or real, I don't know. has defined it as her personal ghost. She has a drawing of it, and so they talk about that and whatnot. And ultimately, it gets to a point where like they do like scare him, and he feels like it's done in like a mean type of way. Again, he's a nerdy kid's been bullied, this and that, and he's running out of the house. He runs into her room. He grabs that picture that she drew, and he leaves. And this is all we're looking back on this because he's found this picture in a box of his shit that his mom has brought him like 30 years later. And so it's kind of it's a kind of a look at that. And not to pull out the old man card again, but doing a lot of that, with my kids are, I've got a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old this month. Both of their birthdays in December, and so kind of starting to feel that type of stuff, that nostalgia, and so he's going through a box of his old stuff and he finds this picture. And so it's a look at that. It's a look at, he never talked to her again. And they had some real conversation that day. They had some level of connection, and kind of looking back at what could have been, and also, where are they now type stuff. Where is she now? What happened to her? This and that. And so it's I enjoyed that story. It's a good story, and that is the I'm not going to read the whole title again, but that's the Haunted House Tour, one per person. Now, another story in here that I liked was the last conversation. Yeah, the last conversation. And it's kind of a it's told in a series of like interviews between like our main character is like a patient, and our other characters. I mean, you assume it's some sort of a doctor, some sort of a medical slash research slash scientist thing, and it starts with a wake up. Like our main character wakes up and can't see and can't really walk, and he's having to rehabilitate everything. It feels like a coma, like he's woke from a coma, or maybe some sort of a pandemic induced coma. And he's in this facility, but it doesn't feel like there's really anyone else here but him and this doctor, this person. And uh, it just progresses, and as it progresses, there's more and more stuff revealed. And that's one thing I really enjoyed about that story, was the way the reveals were delivered, and then the ending. um we, well, not the ending, I'm not going to tell you the ending, but we come to find out that this medical person and our patient, that they have a bigger relationship than just doctor patient. And that she is trying to bring him back and take him to a place where they used to spend time together. And there's just, the ending of it was really cool. It's got more of a science fiction feel, more of a dystopian post-apocalyptic feel than some of the other stories. But yeah, I really enjoyed that story, and that is The Last Conversation. And it's definitely my favorite in the book. It's a bit longer. I'm just guesstimating here, but I want to say it was like 60 to 70-ish pages, while the others were shorter. Some of them are 2 to 3 pages, some of them are 10 to 20 pages. But that one is a longer one, The Last Conversation. And then the title track, The Beast You Are, the last story in the book, is much longer, like roughly 150. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about The Beast You Are. While I didn't love it, I mean, I didn't hate it, um, but it is told in a long verse. It's kind of like an epic poem. I'll show you if you can see that. It's told so. The Beast You Are, and it is basically, it's a little bit of like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, a little bit of The Hunger Games, and it's also got a feel of like Richard Adams' Watership Down. And because it's animals, like the whole story is about this community of animals, and every 30 years this monster comes out of the woods to the north and comes to this ceremony, and they've selected three people, creatures, to put in front of him, and he chooses one and kills it, eats it, whatever. And this happens every 30 years. And so our characters that are selected for this they're all roughly, let's say, 8 years old for the sake of argument. We've got Mag, who is a dog. We've got Marith, who is a cat, and we've got, I think I want to say Toll, Tol. I could be wrong about that. It's a frog, and the frog is chosen. So the story is really about the next 60 years, basically two cycles in this 30-year thing, where Mag and Marith, through different methods, are trying to, first kind of, like, we learn a lot of history. We learn a lot of history about this place and this ceremony and this monster and this and that. But Mag and Marith kind of set out to, I guess, put a stop to it, to change the future of their community for other kids like them, so no one else has to stand up there and be selected by the monster. I mean, again, the way it's told, it wasn't super easy to follow for me. I followed the story, but yeah, I mean, that's the gist. So if I had to rate that story, I would say probably 3 on that one. I mean, it wasn't my least favorite story in the book by any means, but it just, wasn't really. I mean, it's kind of, fantasy animals, just not something I would really expect, when buying a Paul Tremblay book on cover alone, which is basically what I did. I was, this was one of the books from the Barnes and Noble birthday book haul where I was walking through grabbing books, and I was like, oh, it's a new Tremblay, boom, So, look, I'm not let down. It is what it is, but the book as a whole, I'm 2 stars on. So, this has been Well Red Beard. Um, Again, 14 stories in, I think it's 14 stories in roughly 350 pages. But if you're going to read Tremblay and you haven't, I definitely recommend A Head Full of Ghosts. So, Well Red Beard, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying all your books, all of them, as much as I am. If not, you're reading the wrong damn books.